But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast, and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America. We do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, again, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about in language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Welcome everyone to Startup on the Blocks. Come on up, Jill and Jeremy. How you all are doing?
Hey, Lloyd. Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yes, and Jill, you're back for a second time around, and Jeremy, we're glad to have you here as well. We want to take care of a little business first off, and then we'll let you all introduce yourself. We want to thank our sponsors, that have been helping us out and over the past 2.5 years, and we're glad to have Startup Science, that light bulb with that bright star in the middle of it, have you all as our partners to kind of help make a difference in the startup world. So we're excited about that. Yes. And so let's go on here. So you all can take just to do a little short, brief introduction, and then I'll tell some more about Startup on the Blocks, and then we can move forward.
Cool. My name is Jillian Crawford or Speckman, and I'm the Chief Services Officer here at Startup Science. I have another bio that I'll share in a couple minutes, but just right off the bat, serial entrepreneur. My entire career has been in startups, so I'm excited to share what we've built as a group for Kukua and Lloyd and all of y'all.
Great. Jeremy, if you unmute there.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Startup Science. And when Jill brings up the other slide, I'll also present my full bio, but bottom line is my entire career was spent in the military, and I've transitioned into the startup world since then.
All righty. So you both have some titles that we don't see a lot in the main thing, like Chief Service Officer, Chief Product Officer. So we have to kind of dig into that a little bit more later. Yeah. So the reason why we're here, and I'm so excited, you all have a program that helps founders out so they don't wander aimlessly around trying to figure out how to come up with a plan that works. And so you kind of need to have a really good foundation so you can actually get through the maze and get to that product market fit before you run out of money. And so that's kind of what this slide is trying to show here. And so when you look at on the hockey stick curve, there is a lot of these earlier phases you have to go through with this 10x growth curve. And so like the key thing is you want to learn the methodology before, as early as possible and follow the methodology. So you don't waste a lot of resources, wandering around. And with that, the lean startup stuff, it's actually designed to, even though it's, the journey is challenging, you can follow the methodology and kind of make it to where you want to go there. And I actually use this chart. I like this chart, because it talks about the individual mindset. And so, Jeremy, you were a fighter pilot, so I bet you that's a hell of a mindset you have to have, right?
It is, yeah. You learn to rely on yourself a lot. Yes.
Yeah. And so what we try to do with you all's program and the lean stack program is try to teach, the skills and best practices for building a startup. And then so once you learn those skills, you can actually communicate with all the things that are going on in the ecosystem and unlock all those resources that they have to offer out there. So that's kind of what the idea of what the deal is. And these are just some kind of roadmap things to kind of show the journey. So folks know you start off, way before you would at the idea stage, before you even launch your product or service. You have to spend a lot of time, designing the business model. Like, this is another way to look at it. With the lean stack, you get your mindset right, and you develop that foundation, and then you can start doing some of the follow-on phases. And so that's what we like about that. Oh, and I bet you all recognize this one. So Jill, you want to tell us the idea of this roadmap, looking at the roadmap in this way?
Yeah, absolutely. We spent about 5 years researching why startups fail. And we did this through a little over 1,200 interviews with both founders, VCs, accelerators, incubators, different programs, and really boiled it down to 5 main reasons. And then we decided to focus on remapping out the life cycle, and we did that with the idea that we would help highlight the key points or the key stages a founder should go through in order to avoid some of the failure points or some of the things that we found in the research that were challenges to these startups. So what you see here is the startup life cycle. It's really straightforward with 7 steps in here. First one is vision. This is really the product ideation. And I think what's cool about this is it runs parallel to the lean philosophy, right? You need a defensible business plan. You need customer feedback. There's many things on your specific business plan that are important, but this is taking it more on away from the idea and into the functions of what you should be doing as you grow your business. So we talk about the vision. That is really just thinking about where you fit in the market. Your product development, is it a fit? Go to market. Once you've spoken to some early customers, how do you actually introduce it to the space against competitors? Is it going to stick? Then you have to look at standardizing it. How do you focus on what's worked, boil it down so that you have best practices, right? So that you're starting to come up with a roadmap for your business. From there, it goes into optimization, starting to look towards growth. Okay, I know what works. How do I start to optimize it and map that out so I can scale? And that's really, really hard for a lot of founders. And finally, exit, which you should always start with. And a lot of our content will talk about that. So we have an entire course on this, which I'll show you shortly. But it falls in line with what Lean Stack shares, and their philosophies. So they work well together.
Fantastic. Yes, and this is a little playbook, and we don't have to go in it. But I think what's key about it. I was talking to one of our founders, and we mentioned this last week, that you kind of have to build up your profile in these different sites like the F6S and Crunchbase and stuff like that, and because that's where a lot of these people that give the freebies and discounts, they go look at your profile to see if you look legit. And I was talking to Carlos, one of our founders. We had mentioned the Coda. .io, the no code document software, and so they give $1,000 credit. And so Carlos was telling me tonight at networking that he actually applied, and within a week he got the $1,000 credit, and he can actually run his whole startup, the back office, off of Coda, and that $1,000 will last them a couple of years or more to use their software. And so that's why we tell this profile, so because you have to validate that you're actually working on your startup. And the Startup Science Day, it has some freebies in there too as well, right?
Yep, I'll go ahead and give a tour and show you guys where to find that
Okay.
updated list. Exactly.
Yeah, So yeah, so that's kind of what we do, and this kind of sums it up. I guess I need to add the startup science stuff here, but basically, we take you and we want to make sure you know all this best prices. We do this weekly training and networking, and we got some other resources out there you can use, but we definitely got the learning and the training resources available for you to prepare you for all these pitch competitions, accelerator programs, all these different showcases and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of what the deal is. And we also have some mentors to kind of help you all along the route to kind of move forward. Yeah. So that's kind of what we do, and we this is what we promise the founders that get involved with us. We help them throughout that life cycle of their startup, and so they can grow and move forward with what they're selling. All righty, Jill, I'll turn it over to you and Jeremy to do some deeper introductions here.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna present.
Yeah. So it just went away for some reason. So I can, if you try. Okay, there it is.
All right, we're in.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, moment of truth. So just before I go into the following slide, this is really short. What we want to do is actually dive into the platform. But before I go into this, we just want to say Startup Science. We love Kukua Institute. We love Startups on the Blocks. We're really happy to be a partner, and this project is really dear to us. This project being the platform that we've built. We're all serial entrepreneurs here, and this has taken our experience across multiple endeavors and really boiled it down. So we hope it helps. We hope that everyone can take advantage of it, and we're just thrilled to be working with Lloyd and to be able to share this with you all. Personal intros, I'll start. Jillian Speckman, Chief Services Officer at Startup Science. I've done multiple startups. This is my fourth. And I have to say I've been lucky in my startup so far to have a couple exits. I've gone through one turnaround, which actually would probably count as a third exit. And my focus has primarily been pre-seed through Series A. I am located in the Bay Area, so I'm actually in Santa Cruz, which is really just a bedroom community to Silicon Valley. So the startups that I've been involved with have all been in the Bay Area, and it's just been a phenomenal experience. And what we're going to show you with the Academy is really a culmination of my experience, Jeremy's experience, and some other founders that we've actually done previous startups together. So it's kind of cool to come back together and put this in play and make it available. My focus has primarily been scaling, global expansion. So getting into markets, Canada, Australia, and the UK. Typically, I wear like a sales acquisition hat, and I've primarily been in the e-commerce space with a little bit of biosafety in there. And I always end up working with customers at the end of the day. We all know when you're a founder, you kind of just like wear every hat possible. So aside from that, this tends to be my sweet spot and where I'm comfortable and kind of what I've stuck to. So if there are questions on the platform, I'll show you where the support button is, and Jeremy and I will be helping with those. And that's really my role here at Startup Science is to help make sure you can access the platform and it's working well for you. Jeremy, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Gordon, Chief Product Officer at Startup Science. From the time I was about 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be in the Air Force, to be a fighter pilot. My dad was enlisted in the Air Force and Army for 35 years, so I was kind of raised that way. Ended up being a fighter pilot for 23 years. In that time, somehow, with some partners and my wife, ended up starting a few businesses. My wife and I started a gym while we were stationed in Virginia. Ended up with 2 facilities, about 25 employees, and I got stationed in Colorado Springs in 2017, so we ended up exiting, selling that business. In 2014, myself and a couple other pilots ended up starting a fitness app that's still called Kinetic Coach. It's still live today, basically helping airline pilots and deployed service members, and then eventually pretty much anyone who wants to work out at home, build workouts with limited equipment, time, and skill. After spending a career breaking things, I'm happy to be doing something, putting things back together and building things for people to use, hopefully improving the world a little bit. As the chief product officer, my primary job is to be the voice of the customer. So I take the vision of Greg Shepard, our founder, Jill and Marty, who are kind of our service team, get feedback. And then I am there to kind of balance that out and think ahead as the customer as to how you'd want to interact with the product and what functions and features you need to succeed as a startup or as an accelerator.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. Lloyd, did you have something?
That was the great intros. We appreciate you all's background and just glad to see how this whole product came together.
Cool. So couple things, Boss, you'll see this referenced in some of the courses and throughout the platform. It stands for Business Operating Support System. I think this just might be helpful to kind of explain what this means. Over the years, our group that's done previous startups together, we studied different methodologies to kind of help us move to the next step in our startup life cycle. So we pull from things like Six Sigma, Ornclef, framing, OGSMs, all of these other sort of methodologies that are already out there. And we've used them over the years and tried to apply them to what we're doing. So the culmination of all of those different methodologies, we've boiled down and just coined as BOSS. So when you see that, that's what that means. It's not something that has that we've created. It works in parallel with Lean. It works in parallel with Six Sigma, but it's pulling from what has worked across the board with all of these other ways of doing business and building companies. So just to kind of explain what that means, it's not necessarily like a brand per se. It's a methodology. And the Kukua portal, which we're going to walk through today, it hosts founder courses based on these BOSS methods. The idea is to give startups and founders a path to success. It's going to help you communicate better with investors. It's going to help you get into programs, accelerators, incubators, etc., pitch competitions, as well as grants. So we want to break apart some of the business concepts, put them back together through practicum, which I'll show you. And that will give you a defensible way to talk about what you're doing to stakeholders and investors. At the end of the day, that's what we need when we need grants, we need funding, and we need to move through that life cycle that we saw earlier. Why are we doing this? We know the failure rate's high. We know why. So if we know why, we can consciously avoid those failure points by following the right path and making the right connections. So the content and the courses that are in this portal for Kukua map this out. So you can choose the course you want to take. I'll show you what that looks like. But the idea is to have you build out your company based on these different concepts and the methodologies, and be able to confidently go into a pitch competition, to speak with an investor and defend your idea and know where those numbers came from and how you got there. So for today, I'm going to wrap up this slide. I'm not a big deck person, but what we're going to do is just jump into the first step of this portal. So it's brand new for Lloyd and Kukua Institute. Everybody on this call has access, and Jeremy and I can help you get in there. What we want to do today is focus our energy on what we call the Academy. This is on the business courses. They're listed out as read, listen, watch, meaning you can take the course however is best for you. If you want to put your headphones on, if you want to watch a video, if you just want to read it, I'll show you how to do that. And the idea is to start building out your profile. And once we're done with the academy, we'll probably have a follow-up session with Lloyd to talk about, okay, what happens next, right? But for today, we want this to be something that's bite-sizable. I'll show you what those courses look like and at least get you started so that you can build this out to start making those connections. So I'll go ahead and exit out of this. And Lloyd, is there anything that you want to jump in on before I hop into the platform?
Well, everybody in the audience, so this is your chance to learn about the portal. So as you're in there taking courses, you can know how to get around and move around. So don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have. This is a great opportunity for you.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, Jeremy and I are pumped to be here. So anything you have, please share. Ideally, when we hang up today, you guys feel motivated to hop in and push some buttons and enter in some information and feel great. One question from Quinn. Does our previous application transfer over to Kukua, or do we need to start over? So I believe, Quinn, correct me if I'm mistaken, but you had started the pre-accelerator on the Startup Science portal with Randall a couple months ago. Is that correct? I believe so.
Yes, that's correct. I know my courses got transferred over from the pre-accelerator. Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm going to hand that over to you. If it's the same email.
Any work, as long as, yes, that's the key. As long as it's the same email address, as long as it's one account, all the work you did with Randall lives on. Your personal profile is kind of independent of the portal you're in. The only exception to that would be, Quinn, if you actually submitted an application form. So we're not talking about your company profile. That specific application form is only submitted to Startup Science. However, all the data that you input on that form is saved in your startup profile. So when you start a new application form, it'll auto-populate with all the information saved in your profile. And you can see what that information is under your company profile tab, which Jill can show you.
Perfect. So, but that's a good point. So some of the folks on the call may have gone through what we call a pre-accelerator. I wasn't planning on touching on that, but I think if it makes sense, what I'll do is after I go through the academy, I'll spend just a couple minutes on the pre-accelerator. And Quinn's asking, okay, so I can go back and update. Jeremy, I think you're on mute still.
Damn, sorry. I have a bunch of rescue animals, so it's always chaos in my house. So I mute. Sorry about that. So Quinn, yes, you can update and change things, and it will update your company profile. We don't have a direct edit button for the company profile yet, but that'll be coming very soon, like in a matter of a couple of weeks, where you can go straight in your company profile, edit it, and then whenever you start a new application, it'll automatically populate the application form with your information.
Perfect. And then I saw, Carlos, you were part of that pre-accelerator. So thank you for telling us that. What I'll do is I'll start with Academy, just more broad stroke, and then I'll just touch on what that pre-accelerator is. But Lloyd, I know we've kind of gone back and forth on like what that's going to look like.
Well, I have a question, just based on terminology. So in the case of Quinn, he's got his profile there. Carlos has his company profile there. So exactly what do you mean when you say start a new application?
Yeah, so application forms are tied to the accelerator or investment firm or whichever portal you're on. So Lloyd, if you develop an application form for people to get into your accelerator, into Kukua, then that's what they would be completing. And any courses you take, data you fill out during courses, will populate that application form automatically. So, and you can go and edit the application. You can always do that before submitting. But that's what an application form is. It's kind of separate from the academy. But
Yeah. So are we talking about only applications that the Kukua Institute puts out there? Or that's what I guess what I'm actually getting at
So,
too. Are
so
we
the
talking about other
specific,
accelerator programs?
so it's members of your portal, Lloyd. If you have an application form on
Yes.
your portal, they can start that application form. It'll populate with the information in their company profile, so your
Okay.
user's company profile. If they happen to go to a different portal and that portal has an application form,
Okay.
they can fill out that application form, and again, it'll just pull information from that individual's company profile and auto populate that application form.
Yeah. So I guess it sounds like if they see another accelerator program and they happen to use the Startup Science um, that accelerator company uses Startup Science portal, then that's where that actually comes in really handy as well, right?
Yep, exactly. Right now, the way our system's set up, they would only see application forms on your portal that you put in there.
Mm-hmm.
To
Gotcha.
see all the application forms, the Startup Science portal will display all application forms from every
Okay.
customer.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a really good point because I know, Lloyd, when we were talking, part of the idea is, okay, you do the legwork, which I'll get into the academy in a second with the legwork. Now, what's the next step? How do you take this and look at the programs that would be a good fit, et cetera, like building out the ecosystem? So I think that's what we're talking about in terms of if somebody else is using it, like say a VC or an accelerator, because we do partner with multiple accelerators, universities, investors that have their own portals, opening it up for those, and that is that's in the works to be
Yeah.
able to move into that area.
Right. So like F6S .com. So like when you build up, you can build up both a personal profile and a startup profile in there, and then other programs all over the world, they actually put their applications on F6S, and then you can search F6S to find those applications. So you all are doing it a little different with this because F6S doesn't offer any training, but you all are offering training. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the difference.
But there's one other thing too worth mentioning, and that is, I mean, what's important to you as a founder is your profile, right? The
Yes.
work that you've done, the math, and I'll show you what that looks like. You know, if you're talking to a mentor, like some of your mentors, Lloyd, and they help you with your profile. So your profile, Jeremy, correct me if I'm mistaken on the timeline, but soon will actually be something you can just share as a link to anyone,
Oh
regardless.
wow. Okay.
So that means that if you do that legwork as a founder and you work with a mentor through you, Lloyd, and it's like, you know what, this is where you should go for your grant, or this is the person to talk to for this pitch competition, being able to put that right in front of them
Yeah.
is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, so I definitely like that because that sounds like you could even share with an investor as well.
And yeah, the intent in the long run is the design of the company profile replaces the necessity to build a pitch deck. You
Okay.
can just share that URL, and investor comes into the portal and views basically your pitch deck, which is your profile, and
Okay.
includes videos and links and anything else you want to put into it.
Fantastic.
Cool. Alrighty. So I think what I'll do is I'll start on the academy. And Quinn and Carlos, thanks for chiming in. And then I will just, if we have time, quickly touch on like the pre-accelerator, just so that everyone's on the same page. You know, in terms of what that is and why it's different from the academy. So I'm logged in as a founder. This is the Kukua Institute portal. There's a dashboard. I'm not going to take us on a full tour because I want to focus really on the academy and just getting into the meat of things. But there's all this other fun stuff over here on the left. We'll touch on the accelerator. And I think we'll also touch on these credits and savings because Lloyd had mentioned that earlier. And I think there's a lot of value in here on having updated credits and savings available to founders. So I'll show you how to navigate that real briefly. But starting with the academy, which is the first thing here. This is micro learning courses that are using that BOF methodology to break down key business concepts. The courses are not necessarily chronological, although we've sort of tiled them that way. I'll give a quick overview of what these are, and then I'll just go ahead and dive into one so you can see how to interact with it. It sounds like some of you guys have already done this, so I apologize if this is repetitive for you, but hopefully it's new and exciting for everyone else. So change is a constant. The idea here is that as a founder, depending on the market, which we'll talk about in here as well, you have to be okay with change. You have to be willing to pivot, read the market, read your messaging, and be okay to change along the way. So this is more of a mindset. Why startups fail? This is looking at the research that we did over the last 5 years and those interviews, and it actually breaks down what we found. To be honest, what we found is exactly what's out there in the industry, which is good. That means it's what people are saying, the 90% failure rate, lack of funding, wrong team, bad management, all that stuff is true. But we'll give you our spin on it and a couple ways that we've built things to overcome those key failure points and things to take into consideration. We do go into the boss life cycle, which was that slide that Lloyd showed earlier, what you need to do to move through the gates of each stage of that life cycle. And then we're going to talk about building your ecosystem. This is really big as you look at competitors, possible acquirers, maybe people who would want to partner with you. You know, who's going to touch your customer, basically, at the end of the day, and how to position yourself alongside that. Product ideation. This is not so much, do you have a good idea? That's where lean is going to come in. And that's what they're really going to help with. This is more along the lines of the mentality, what to think about through product ideation and so forth. It's not interviewing your customers and such as the lean would tell you to. Market identity and size. This is a big one. So how big is your market? You know, your TAM, SAM, SOM, understanding your market. You know, what's going on in your market. That's important as you position your product, especially as at the beginning here. This is all very North Star on the business focus. Identifying your what and your why. This is important for any company as well as products. Why are you there? What are you solving for? And this will actually help with your elevator pitch later, as well as positioning it in a way that investors understand. This is starting to translate into their language. Your ideal customer profile. I'm going to come back to that one because that's a fun one. I think I'll drill in on that one. User stories, your buyer personas, like who are you targeting? How do you get in front of them? This will later be really, really helpful for your go-to-market and your marketing strategies. So some folks use LinkedIn, some folks use Twitter, some folks use Instagram. Which one's appropriate? What other ways, what other honeypots are out there to target your customers? So this will start to make you think about that ahead of time. Acquisition types, valuation drivers, and the acquirer profile are all kind of lead into each other. And the idea here is to actually start with your exit strategy. So what type of acquisition types are out there? Where should your company be valued? You don't want to be overvalued. You don't want to be undervalued. And who would actually be interested in buying your company? One thing I should probably mention is we talk a lot about acquisition in the BOSS courses and methodologies. And the reason why is because we do want to impact wealth inequality. And one of the ways that folks get out of check-to-check living is either it's a windfall, right? You win the lottery, you inherit something, or you sell a business. And with the 90% failure rate, if you want to sell a business and get out of check-to-check living, why is there that 90% failure rate? So the idea is if we can affect wealth inequality, exit might be a part of that equation. One of the things I don't think we mentioned in our previous session, actually, with Marty, or on this is Greg Shepard, our founder. He is neurodivergent, and he had a really, really, he came up very poor, in poverty. He lived in a tent most of his life as a young child. So wealth inequality and finding a way to exit companies has become a passion of his. And so you'll hear us talk about exit a lot, start with the end in mind. So just to kind of explain why we have that philosophy. That said, we do work with quite a few founders where this is their bread and butter. They're more of a lifestyle business and they don't want to exit. And that is absolutely fine. And the same key concepts are applied if you're looking for funding, grants, talking to key stakeholders and VCs. So I just want to make sure that if you're like, well, I don't want to exit, that's totally fine. There's still plenty of things to chew on in here, and you don't have to start with the exit strategy as part of your overall strategy. We also talk about manifesto, which is also really important if you are more of a lifestyle company where you want this to be a long-term, multi-generational company that you're building and you don't have an exit plan in mind. Manifesto is huge because that's going to carry over to the culture of your company, which is important in later in your life cycle. Ownership. So if you invite other folks in or you invite investors in, what should that makeup look like? Should they take equity? How do you negotiate around that? What to think about? Finance. I'll skip that one because we know what it is. Personally, that's my Achilles area. KPIs, knowing what you should start thinking about. These will change through the course of your business life cycle. How do you, once you start to build your business and hire in people, start to look at execution and accountability? This is huge when you start to get to more of a scale stage. So you have multiple people working on multiple products. How are they coordinated? How can you as a founder make sure if you have 3 people that they're all working in unison, even though they have different roles and accountabilities? How do you assign things to ensure they're done transparently? Company structures, pretty straightforward in terms of operations and how communication should happen between departments as you scale and grow. IP, and then wargaming, challenging your thought process. So that's an overview. I will say we have more courses coming. That's something that Jeremy is working on. We had a conversation about it this morning. So we have some funding courses in queue and expect that over the next month or so. Correct me if I'm mistaken, Jeremy, but those are the next ones up. We have 3 different funding courses that are going to populate in here. So check back because over time, this is going to continue to grow, especially as we have more needs of different types of courses come up over time. Is there anything you want to add in there, Jeremy, course-wise?
Nope. That's great.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to go into ICP just to give you guys a quick overview of what this looks like. So each of the courses, all but 3 in here, have a watch video. This video is different. It's obviously relative to the topic of the course, but they're all under 10 minutes, or roughly around under 10 minutes. I think one might be 12. What they do is basically talk about this topic and give you some action steps to work through the actual courseware within the topic. So I'm going to play a little bit of this, but before I do that, I just want to show you that whole watch, listen, and read. So part of Greg being neurodivergent is sometimes it's too much to watch the visuals and to hear it and to see it is just too much. So for him, sometimes he just wants to pop in his earbuds and just listen. And that's totally normal. We hear a lot about, how people learn and it's different. Other folks might just want to read and just say, you know what, I don't want to listen to somebody tell me what to do. I want to interpret it on my own and put my own narrative behind it. And that's totally fine. So you can learn the way you want. Each of the different courses have this option for you. So you can just pick the best way for you. And they're all exactly the same content. So it's whatever makes sense. I will say we did also work with several professors and we learned about pedagogy and the way that people learn. So it was important to us to try to make this as digestible as possible. So short, to the point, and focus on the key pieces so that you don't have to go out and Google things. You don't get lost. It's really short and succinct. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit play. And then we'll go answer some questions on this too, just so you guys can get a feel for this. Does that sound Is that a no sound? Because it's super loud on my side. Yeah, Jeremy? Dang it. Okay.
No
Well,
sound, yeah.
I'm not sure how to fix that on the StreamYard, but what I will do is I'll just scroll over so you guys can see what we're talking about in here. So different things to think about for the ICP: industry, revenue, location, age, how to calculate your TAM, SAM, SOM, looking at, are you B2B? Are you B2C? Why is this important? Why should you narrow in on an ICP? Are they matched to your North Star? Meaning, are you targeting the right ICP if you have an exit plan? Like, is it matched up to maybe somebody that wants to buy you so you're not onboarding the wrong customers? Also, understanding your customer, can they afford your product? Just positioning with them. And then what we do is we start to break down how to describe our ICP. So I'm sorry that the sound isn't working, but we go through a SWOT analysis, et cetera. But you guys all have access to this, so it'll work sound-wise on your side outside of StreamYard. But once you go through this video, then you can actually start to do this. And you can also say, you know what, I don't want to do it on the video side. I'd rather read and do the exact same ICP toolkit. So we can build our ICP together here, and it's going to ask you a series of questions. So what this is doing is it's telling you a little bit about the concepts and then asking you questions. And this starts to build up that profile that then you can share with investors, key stakeholders. And to Jeremy's point, will at a later date replace pitch decks or the need or culminate things together for a pitch deck. So are you B2B? You can answer all of these. You can describe what you are building. It's going to basically predefine different sets. These are all things that investors are looking for. And what we did is we went through and part of that interview process, we found out what was important. What is important for investors? What's important for accelerators? And one thing I think I failed to mention is that Greg Shepard, our CEO, prior to and alongside of launching Startup Science, actually ran a syndicate. So he exited several companies, serial entrepreneur, and he started a syndicate to start investing in portfolio companies. And what he found was he was getting the same kind of questions as an investor. So a lot of this is also based on the things that he asks his portfolio companies to give to him when he's going through funding rounds. So we've actually put this in play in test with our own portcos, which is just kind of nice to know. So it's not just third-party interviews, what we know and research. It's actually having done it on our syndicate side. So basically, you would go through all of this, and this starts to pipe into your company profile, which is saved right here. So I'm going to go back to the Academy and just showcase one other one. Let's do personas, and you'll see the same thing. We're going to start with the video. The only other thing that I would add is under toolkits, even though you start to go through and answer questions and you're building out your portfolio, there's also best practices in here. And this is just a quick text summary. And the idea here is if you do fill out the application, or sorry, the courseware, the toolkits, and you build out your profile, if you feel like there's one area that you were like, gosh, I know I got the right numbers, I followed the toolkits, it's in I have my market share or I have my persona listed out, I understand it, but how did I get there? This is a really nice thing to just download and have when you're in your either pitch competition as notes or you're talking to an investor. It's like a cheat sheet. So they all have that available for you as well. So let's see, I'm going to actually, unless there's any questions, I haven't seen anything pop up yet. I'm going to pop into the credits and savings and then circle back to pre-accelerator because we're about a quarter till the hour here. We'll just give it a second in case anything comes up. Cool. Alrighty. This is a really awesome area. There's a lot of value in the courses that are provided. Awesome. Thank you, Quinn. Quinn said there's a lot of value. He'll be going through these, which is awesome to hear because he's seen some of these. So that's fantastic. So credits and savings, this is something that is pulled through an API that we actually pay for a subscription for. in order to get up-to-date current discounts for founders. So you can do a search in here on different terms. There's 70 items in here. And this is helpful because even though other platforms might have some of these, sometimes they require you to either pay for them or enter in like F6. I think Lloyd had mentioned you have to enter in a certain amount of information in order to get access to different pieces of this. These are the ones that you should know about at any given time at your fingertips without having to do anything. So basically like Amazon Web Services, if you click here, it'll take you right into AWS. For hosting. Quick description, if you hover over it, it'll give you an idea of what this is, if it's important to you. What is the type of services, I'm sorry, I'm on bench, that AWS would offer, hosting. What is the value? You can get up to $100,000 in credits. And you'll see this on all of these. We list out exactly what the discount, 12 months free. I know Coda is a big one that Lloyd has been a proponent of. You can get credits with Coda. They're a work tool, service project management tool. So feel free to click through here. LegalPad is kind of an interesting one. Obviously, HubSpot. Some of these, though, I will say they are they're more applicable to certain stages of the life cycle. So what you're going to see as this platform evolves is us making those connections for you so that you don't go and get a HubSpot CRM before you're in go-to-market, right? So it needs to be kind of where you're at with your business growth. If you're still in ideation or your vision stage, you probably don't need a CRM. So we're going to make that a little easier for you in the near future. So the other one that I want to focus on real quick is the pre-accelerator. And Lloyd, I might pull you back into the conversation on this. AWS will need that getting ready to launch. Yep, perfect. That's awesome, Quinn. Glad that's coming up at the right time for you. So pre-accelerator, I want to touch on this because this is basically looking at the academy, and this is something that Lloyd can set up in the future and that we have run several pre-accelerators on. And what it does is it sets a time frame around very specific courses. It's not all the courses. It's different courses and a different amount of time to go through those courses. We have it broken down into 6 different modules to cover some of the courses in the academy. And the idea in the pre-accelerator is that it focuses you on specific courses chronologically, and then there's a break, and then we do a workshop. When Startup Science has done these, we've done them in this 2-week cohort right here, where we try to actually go through all of them in 2 weeks. It's pretty intense. Quinn, I'm sure you experienced the rapidness. Carlos, same for you. But there is also the flexibility to push this out longer. Great question, Heather. We do not have a pre-accelerator set up yet with Kukua because it takes some resources to put in the workshops around completing those different courses. But Lloyd and I are talking about what that might look like. And Lloyd, please jump in on that.
Yes. So like, I guess Heather, I think Heather, just so you know, you when you filled out the form, I can't remember if you actually requested the Startup Science or not, but we'll go back and double check it. But if you did request it, you should have an invite in your email for it to get access to it.
Well,
let me know if that answers your question.
And Heather, I don't know if you were talking about pre-accelerator credits and savings. So if you were talking about the credits and savings, they're just right here when you log in. So just to clarify, but if you were talking about the pre-accelerator, it's a matter of Lloyd dedicating the time to set one up and doing the workshops and so forth. It's it'll be scheduled out ahead of time, and Lloyd can let you know if and when that occurs. But I will say, even if you do a cohort, what's great is like there's workshops around it. So there's communication. So like Lloyd could bring in his mentors to run a workshop around one of the courses. I mean, you can take 2 months to do them. You don't have to do 2 weeks. There's a lot of flexibility within there. But what I would suggest is right off the bat, going into Academy and just starting. Because even if a cohort, gotcha, Heather. Okay, even if a cohort comes up later, any legwork you do in here will start to build your profile. And then when you do a cohort, you'll be one step ahead. And you can really take advantage of those workshops.
I can answer Heather's question. So Heather, I see that we have invited you to the portal at your heather@vibrantchefs.com. So if you just look for what would the email look like? Would it be from like Startup Science?
Yeah, and Heather, I believe the original invite links expired, Lloyd. So I just sent Heather a new invite yesterday.
Okay.
So it'll be from Startup Science, and it's just going to have a button to click to set your password. And if you have issues, you can contact Lloyd, and he'll let us know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think that's pretty much the main things. I mean, go through and click things. I don't want to go through. I mean, it's a lot of information, right? In one sitting. I think that the most important thing to get started on is just play in the Academy. You don't have to go chronologically. Pick something that stands out to you and give it a try. Start saving some information. If you want to cruise the credits and savings, that's awesome. What you will see over the next, couple weeks, months are regular updates. So I'll be in touch with Lloyd as Jeremy's team continues to enhance the UI and the features. And Lloyd and I are going to be working closely together to make sure that that's shared with you as well. But expect this to grow and evolve past this.
Yes. So if I remember right, one of the nice features of this particular tool, if you're filling out an application and you don't know how to answer the question, could you kind of go through that? I think I may have one. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, I wonder what's the best way, Jeremy, for.
Yeah, so that's an example of that's one I created. An application I created that I didn't know what I was doing, but I created one.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, if Lloyd were to create an application, or if Lloyd were to give you 3 links that would kind of look like this, a little bit different, and they were not part of Kukua's. For example, they were one of our other accelerator partners, or they were an investor's application, they would all look similar to this, right? So say it was an accelerator and Lloyd gave you that, or it was Lloyd's like this. This is how you would go ahead and fill out the application. You would start at the About You, and this is where you're entering in that information to save. You would then go into your entity, company, and I'll click through these in a second. Product, your market, your customer, your exit strategy. All these questions in each one of these topics are a superset of the questions that are asked across all accelerators, universities, incubators, and VCs. So what we did is we went out and we looked at all the applications and we parsed down the common questions so that it's applicable to all of them. It just makes it easier so that if you do go in, you don't have to go Google and find other things. And what we did is we populated videos on each of these sections. They're only like 1 minute to 2 minutes long to help you answer these specific questions. So, Jeremy, I'll let you help Heather on her chat if that's cool with you. Cool. So entity, where you're from, your legal entity, and it's just going to have you start to fill all this out. What are you? C Corp? Are you Delaware? When were you found? Company. And then it's going to start to do videos on some of the stuff that asks a little bit more about the business that might be related to, say, a course. It's going to have really short explanations to help take you through that as well. Product, same thing, what you need to know. It's going to tell you how to answer the questions on the application. So this is important because we know that the acceptance rate for accelerators is 5% or less. Typically it's around 3%. And one of the main reasons isn't because it's not a good fit. It's because the answers weren't answered correct, or the questions weren't answered correctly. So our idea by doing all this research and putting the questions this way with the tutorial is that you'll answer them the way that the accelerators want to see them. So it's great practice, especially if you want to go to like a YCOM or something like that. Because this will gear you up to answer the way that they're hoping to see them and hopefully close down on that acceptance rate.
Heather, I'll definitely help you. Maybe tomorrow, if you have some time, we'll help you get on board, and we can do it another way as well. I can also give her a link where she can kind of go directly into it, or
Yeah, I just resent her invite to her, Lloyd.
okay, good.
So Heather, let us know if you get that. If not, then we'll work another way.
Perfect.
But I just want to make sure, because I think you mentioned this to me, Jill. I can provide a link where the person can actually just click the link and then go out and then register that way as well, right?
Exactly. So if you are, if you're in your view of this,
Mm-hmm.
above the fold,
Yes.
in admin portal, click your
Yeah.
dashboard. On the
Mm-hmm.
left, there's two links. One says Academy. If you just click the little copy button next to that, that's the link to share with folks.
And so you said it's the one that says, okay, yeah, I see the one that says Academy. I see it.
Perfect.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then if there's any questions, yeah, let us know. Also, I should just mention down here, we do have the support tab. So there's FAQs, but you can always do live chat here. And this comes directly to me in the form of either a chat or an email. So I'm checking that throughout the day. So talk to Lloyd, definitely go through Lloyd. If you're in the moment and you're like, I really just want to like figure this out, go ahead and use this feature as well. It's shared internally on our team.
Yes. That's great. And yeah, I think that was most of the items I wanted to make sure you all covered. Yes. So if you all got any questions, or if you need the link, just definitely shoot me an email and we'll get you in there.
Awesome. And unless there's any other questions, I'll stop sharing. And I think you guys should use the remaining time to get in there.
Yes. But I think the for me and the thinking about the founders out there and applying for some of these discounts and credits and applying for pitch competitions. So like for example, next month there's like a $75,000 pitch competition down in Tampa, and so that application is out there for founders to participate in, and we will be doing some pitch app competitions as well, and so um, and so we'll make sure that you leveraging a platform like this, you can know how to answer the questions. I think that's a really big deal, and I think uh, we've seen founders that get asked, questions about the market, with and how big the market is. That we've seen founders get asked questions about exit strategy, what's your customer acquisition cost, and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that's the importance of going through this course is you learn those terms, but you also learn how to figure out what they mean and figure out how to calculate them for your particular startup.
Cool. And quick question, background on expanding globally in the music industry, not specific to the music industry. What we did was an e-commerce SaaS platform. So what I do have experience on is some of the differences between countries when you hire in country, what that looks like, kind of just key considerations for building teams. So I'd be happy to share that with you if you think that would be helpful. More than happy to help. Perfect.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. And so like so Jeremy, so I'm trying to. So you're as chief product officer. That's different than a kind of like a CTO type person, right? Are you getting into some of in your role? Are you getting into both?
Yeah, and one of the academic courses we have is structuring your company,
Mm-hmm.
and we also have KPIs.
Yeah.
And as most of the people on this call can probably attest to, you serve multiple roles as an
Gotcha.
early stage startup. As a founder, you may be doing everything. So we do have a CTO. Uh,
Okay.
so we have 10 members on our team at this point. So I work with the CTO to enact the vision. So I work with a design team. I figure out what the user interface and the user experience is going to be, what features we want to develop. And then I work with the engineers to enact that with the CTO and the engineer. Our CTO wears about 4 different hats, though. So a lot of times I'm dual hatting as a CTO as well, but that comes with the territory in a startup where the founder may be a single person is the CEO, the CTO, the chief product officer, chief marketing officer. That's just how it happens. And giving those titles isn't necessarily important per se, but understanding how each of those functional areas, how marketing needs to interact with product, how product needs to interact with service is absolutely critical, even if you're doing it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so like when you haven't, so it's a lot to go from just an idea to kind of to an MVP. So it's a lot of things going on there.
Yeah.
But I think the key thing is having the foundation with the training and then getting into these programs that provide you additional help and funding to hire uh, somebody like you to actually do that chief product officer, type role, or
Yep.
or maybe even do a fractional one or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And I think some of the founders out there as well, that are in the educational space. So this is an educational platform. So you can kind of learn from some of the approaches here as well. So Jill, in your role as a services officer, so that's not a common term that I hear. So what's different about your title?
Yeah, great question. Well, to Jeremy's point, we all kind of wear multiple hats. So,
Hmm.
although I'd love to say it is my main area of focus. We're doing everything from marketing and social to who knows what. But chief services officer typically runs customer success and ownership of renewals.
Okay.
Paying customers. I mean, this is standard, and most organizations are run this way. So there was a change from what used to be called account management
Okay.
and support into this
Okay.
whole customer success type role 8 or 9 years ago.
Yes.
And it's basically takes control of the bridge between sales, the get,
Hmm.
and the service, the keep. And
Okay.
it contains everything from support, product feedback, renewals, contract negotiation, all of that. It basically is linked with the sales and marketing department, though. So
Okay.
most of the service operations roll up into the CRO.
So sounds great. Yeah. So you all have any last comments that you all want to give the audience, takeaways?
I think from my perspective, I'm just really happy with the progress, Lloyd, that we've made putting this together, and we're just excited to make it available for everybody. If anybody does need anything, that support queue goes right to me. If you have other questions, definitely reach out to Lloyd. But we talk a lot, so trust me, it'll make its way to me and Jeremy. So really, just want to hear how it goes. Get in there, use it, and we really just hope that you enjoy it and it helps you.
Yes. Yes. That's. What about you, Jeremy?
I just appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to working for you guys and answering questions and helping you out however I can.
Yes. And
That's it.
yeah, I definitely this happy and excited about the partnership and and we definitely want to help you all grow because it's definitely going to help our farmers grow. Yes. So I guess we'll see everyone next week, and I sent out the email today, and it has the link to all the upcoming events, and so so the good news is we're using Coda and to kind of for a calendar upcoming events and stuff like that, so you can always know what's going on and take advantage of the opportunities. So we put our uh, uh, founders opportunity, what you all call credits and savings. We have a database with some of those in there, but we also have some upcoming opportunities that are time sensitive in there as well. So that application is out there, and we try to keep that up to date, with opportunities that are out there. So we want to help you succeed out there. So definitely take advantage of what we're offering. Thanks again, Jeremy and Jill. We look forward to the relationship, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.